late autumn in northern Ontario, Canada. Weather can be wet, and mornings are chilly. But when the hardwoods are just about done shedding their leaves, and the frost bites off the last of the yellow, orange, and red leaves, that's when the tamaracks start to shine. It's a gorgeous day for a paddle. I'm not willing to let go of canoeing season just yet. It's late October. The leaves are, as you see, mostly off of the trees, but not all. And the weather has warmed up for a couple of days. It's going to get wet tonight, but I'm on a solo overnight trip on the Crown land, basically in our backyard. I'm really looking forward to it. Although I already miss Sherry. This creek and surrounding wetland haven't changed much at all in the years since my youth. I used to paddle here on an almost daily basis as a young teenager, fishing the day away and dreaming up big explorations of the whole surrounding area. This is one such trip that I never had the chance to make back then. It's not a marked canoe route, but I've always wanted to navigate this creek as far as I could, possibly all the way back to its origin lake. I'm surprised by how familiar it still is to me, being here 30 years later. I shouldn't be, though. It lies in a conservation area just outside of town, and its beauty and bounty have been mostly spared from the seemingly endless spread of so-called human progress and innovation. So I've reached a bit of an impasse here, where we've run into a really shallow section that is not navigable, and there's no portage. So I've come to a spot where I'm going to launch the drone, send it up, and just to see that I've found a bushwhack through to some water, but I don't know if it is navigable for very long. So I'm going to just let the drone tell me. So I got better news than I expected. It looks like this little pond that I have on the other side here will actually take me all the way to where I was going to pull out anyway, which is on the little road that's going to lead me to the lake. And there's just a couple of small ports there. So I have a bit of a bushwhack ahead of me, a bit of a slog, especially with the canoe. With the backpack, it's not going to be so bad, but I'll maybe do a little bit of clearing along the way to make it just a little bit easier with the canoe. But I think we have decent news here, friends. Breaking new trail, or at least not used in a very long time trail. So I just spent a couple of minutes emptying, only to have to repack my pack in order to grab my silky saw. There's beautiful designs on it. Thank you, Brittany Richards from Freaky Nature. so I can pack this under my belt and do a little bit of trail clearing when I'm going through. I should have expected to have to do more bushwhacking than I did. So that's on me. But here we go. For those of you who watch the channel, you know I like to work for stuff. Sherry and I like to work for stuff because there's growth on the other side of challenge and tribulation. So that was a good little bit. It wasn't too much, wasn't too long. Under an hour it took to bushwhack through there and clear it. And now I'm on to this next stretch of hopefully open water. It looks like there are some logs that I'm going to encounter that I'll have to lift over and hopefully just be able to lift over them. But other than that, we're paddling until we got the final portage onto the lake. After all that, I've finally found the road, which will take us almost all the way to the lake. And then we just have another portage, hopefully not a bushwhack, I doubt it, into the lake. And I think I've got lots of daylight hours left, probably 2. So if the rain can hold off for another hour, I'm going to get my tent up and my tarp up so that we can stay dry, so I can stay dry. Well, friends, I made it to the lake, as you can see. It's gorgeous. We've got the sun closing in on the horizon, so I don't have much time to go get my canoe, but I just wanted to let you know that I wasn't sure if there was a trail into this lake. It's a few hundred meters off the that ATV trail, so I wasn't sure if there was a trail. So I just kind of saw a faint little trail leading alongside the creek bed. That's mostly dried up now, but not completely. So I knocked around in the bush for a while with that 70-pound pack on my back, and really just kind of second guessing, well, this whole adventure, to be honest, but second guessing whether or not I should just turn around and hit that campsite and hunker down before the rain started. But instead, I pushed through. I knew there had to be a trail to get to the lake, so I just kind of scanned. Once I got to shore, there was no way I could put in a canoe, so I just continued walking north through the bush, and within a couple hundred meters or 150 meters found the trail, which I'm walking on now to get back to the ATV trail, and then back to the road, then back to the swamp, grab the canoe, bring it back here, hopefully paddle to the island and set up camp. What an adventure that we do to ourselves. So I found a spot. It's more than a little bit creepy. It's the island is pretty grown over. Like it's not. There's no obvious campsites technically, but there is an old structure that someone is just over here. That someone abandoned after it seems like it caved in. How many ever years and years ago? So it's kind of creepy. But it's home for tonight. Try to stay dry, or dry out actually a little bit, because your old pal, just the last sort of opportunity to get wet, and I stood on a slippery rock and slid my whole left leg into the darn water. Time to get shelter up. That's the most important thing. The rain is definitely coming in again, but I've got a beautiful sunset for the moment. I need to get this tent up. I want the thermarest because it's gonna get down kind of nearish to freezing tonight. So I also brought our other mat. So I'm gonna have extra softness here. All right, friends. So I got shelter up with the tarp. Again, I know it's going to be raining overnight and likely most of the day tomorrow. So I had to get the tarp up and secured in 6 spots just to know that I wasn't going to sag. I'm going to drop a couple of the corners before I go to sleep. But I've got a little space under here that I can have my morning coffee and pack things up nicely. But what that did was that had me miss the sunset. I've seen lots of sunsets, but I always like to see the sunset when I can. But I've got a long, cozy evening all by my lonesome here out on this isolated island, and I'm really looking forward to the solitude and hearing a nice rainstorm tonight. That'll put me to sleep. So those of you who follow the channel will know how mildly obsessed I am, don't ask Sherry, with standing dead wood, finding good hardwood on a campsite so that we can make a nice long-lasting fire. Good kindling on shore there where I want to make the fire, but I was hoping for some standing dead maple. It's a big enough island that I do see some maple and I do see some birch. I'm not seeing any dead ones yet. So I couldn't find any standing hardwood that was dead, and I don't like to take too much firewood. I like to leave things in as natural a state as I can. All right, so I'm taking off this one soaked boot. I'm going to take both off, put on my moccasins for the evening, but again, it's going to be raining in the morning, so I believe my boots will be wet in short order. But I'm going to get a fire started, boil up some water. I just brought a freeze-dried meal that I'm looking forward to. It is spicy sausage pasta. That sounds good to me, huh? I can see the rain coming. I got a chance to send the drone up, and I could see that the rain is approaching from the south, which is the direction the weatherman had indicated it would be coming from. Turns out it's fruit fly season here in late October. Who knew? Fruit flies. Okay. Right on the rocks without anything. That's how we're going to boil the water today, friends. Hey friends, so we're here at first light basically, which is 7:45 in the morning. Hopefully you can hear it's been raining pretty hard all night and it's supposed to do it all day. So I just strategically take down camp to keep as much things dry as I can, and take the tarp down last and then start getting wet. The debate is whether I will just portage right down the ATV trail all the way out, what would be probably a 3.5 to 4 kilometer port, or do I do the little hop, skip, and jump that I did to get here with a 700 meter port at the end. Not sure yet. We will see how I feel once I start getting wet. So the morning is progressing along nicely. I got everything basically packed up except the tent and the tarp. And I'd even considered depriving myself of coffee this morning in an effort to sort of scoot out of here, but that was a moment of poor judgment. So I'm going to definitely have a coffee, maybe two. I brought 2 instant packs, so we'll see how I feel. But definitely having one coffee, relaxing, easing my way into the morning. You can hear the rain still pelting down, and this will be it for the day. The tarp held up nicely. So glad I did that. I've got this little dry spot here to prep for the day before getting wet, which is an inevitability. Yeah, but I've decided to ease into the day a little bit because I did this on purpose, right? So might as well make the most of it. You knew this was going to happen. Life is actually pretty good, pretty easy and pretty good. So I'm going to enjoy it. Almost can't believe I was almost willing to deny myself coffee on such a rainy, drab day. That would have been insanity. I tightened up the lines on the tarp a little bit and raised them a bit just to give me a little bit more room to tear down the tent, hopefully in a dry manner, so that I don't have to unpack it when I get home and dry it out. The only things that'll have to do that are going to be my clothes, my tarp, the ropes. I'm just going to leave the ropes attached to the tarp, and my old carcass. I'm going to have to dry that off significantly when I get home, I'm sure. A bad day of camping beats a good day at work, and so far that holds true. I'd be going to work right now, but I don't have to, because I'm out here enjoying this. Okay, on to the portages. First one here is about 500 meters or so, and it's going to be slick on the rocks and mucky, so I'm going to really take it easy. Slipped on some roots there. So in light of that slip on those roots, like 40 seconds into the portage, I'm actually going to meet myself in the middle here. I'm going to portage all the way to the trail that had the bridge that crosses the creek. So as not to invite disaster going through that other portage. This is an ATV trail, and as long as I'm cognizant of every step and all the boulders, this is probably the safest way to go. And then I'll just paddle the last 3 kilometers back to the takeout. Realizing this is a good idea for more than the stated reasons, it's also in a pelting rain like this, or let's say a steady rain like this, portaging keeps my upper body pretty dry, and in cooler temperatures like this, like maybe 5 degrees or so Celsius, portaging like this keeps me warm. So I'm not going to get a chill using this energy to portage. A lot of parts of this road are actually almost completely washed out. So the rain's been pretty steady. I'm at the trail sort of back toward the river where that bridge is. And I just had to look at the map just to kind of get a feel for how far it is. It's definitely less work to just hit this couple 100-meter port. It's a bit rougher than the road, obviously. It's part of the Voyageur Trail. And then just paddle back the hour and a half, maybe. Get a little bit wet, but so it goes. Or I could probably at least another 3-kilometer portage all the way back. And I guess I don't feel like doing that. So I'm gonna get to the river and paddle back. And here we are back at that bridge. Now I'm about to get soaked, but once you're soaked, you can't get any wetter. So nothing to worry about. So last time I was out here on this creek, I was probably 14 or so. My buddy and I portaged from my house to get to this creek, and we paddled up it. The water levels were lower than in the creek, with just topo map, no GPS. We were trying to find a certain lake so we could go fishing. We've had great success fishing for speckled trout in this creek. I'll never forget that. We spent an overnight on a slanted rock. We couldn't find the lake we were looking for. Or we couldn't find a way into the lake we were looking for. And the nostalgia is hitting me pretty hard right now. The beautiful golden tamaracks, even in the drab rainy day, still gorgeous. Mist in the hills. Pretty blessed. Just as I get to the takeout, the rain starts hitting a little bit harder, just to remind me it could have been a lot worse. Well, the weather is a bit junky now, but all in all, this was a magical couple of days of paddling, even in the rain. So beautiful with the tamaracks in full fall mode. Most of the deciduous trees have shed their leaves already, but they're still beautiful even on the ground. Not much for wildlife. Plenty of wood ducks, ravens, but not much else. Overall, magical couple of days paddling. Now back to work. Thank goodness for conservation efforts that have been going on for much longer than Sherry and I have been alive. And thanks to those who have and continue to fight for those causes. We're all better for having this treasure of the natural world.